Hey all you submariners out there, this is Matt, and welcome to episode number 14 of my Elite Difficulty Cold Waters playthrough. So far we spent 87 days at war, sunk 133 ships, for a total tonnage of 802,010 tons of Soviet shipping sent to the bottom. We're going rogue still, so we don't have any mission per se. We're ignoring the mission that we have, and we're just going into the Norwegian Sea and the Barents Sea to sink as much shipping as we can. So we're going to continue doing that. I've just restocked the torpedo room, and so we're full up, heading back into the Norwegian Sea. It looks like we do have an encounter heading our way. Sonar contact bearing 324. Our heading's 333, so it should be pretty much right in front of us. We'll close to 15,000 yards and initiate the encounter.
Rig ship for ultra quiet.
As soon as we get engaged, we do get one contact, so I'll classify that right away. It looks like a diesel sub.
Con sonar Sierra 1 is classified as.
And since I'm pointing directly at him anyway, I'm not going to waste any time here trying to get a better contact or anything like that. I'm already pointed in the right direction. He's got to be somewhere along that bearing, so I'm just going to shoot.
Shoot 1, aye sir.
So I set the weapon to activate almost right away, and we'll just fast forward to when the weapon has locked on and is about ready to hit the Foxtrot.
Noisemaker bearing 316.
And there we go. That's it for the Foxtrot. Now, I'm tempted to just leave the combat right now, but something tells me there's more than just this guy here, so I'm going to stick around a little bit and do a little bit more searching around, hoping to find anybody else that might be out here. I'm gonna dive down deeper underneath the very strong layer. It's possible that whoever's out there, if there's somebody else, would be hiding under the layer, so I'm gonna go down below it.
Con sonar new contact bearing 259. Designated Sierra to con.
Not too long after, I do pick up another contact, Sierra 2, which is another Foxtrot.
Con sonar Sierra 2 is classified as submerged submarine.
Now I'm gonna get myself oriented so I can shoot at him as soon as possible. Sonar says we're about at the same depth, and it's just reclassified the distance to about 14,000 yards. So that's definitely close enough for me to take a shot now. Before he was a little bit too far away, but now that he's closer, I'm ready to shoot.
2, aye sir.
So now we're skipping ahead to when the weapon has actually acquired the Foxtrot and is heading in. I'm steering it a little bit.
Weapon acquired.
Con sonar lost contact.
And that's it for the
Sierra
second
2,
Foxtrot.
Last bearing 251. Contact breaking up.
I believe that would be the last one now, so I don't see any other vessels nearby. Those were the only two on the encounter, so we'll continue on and head to the next one. I see something up north in the Norwegian Sea. I start heading in that direction. That contact has disappeared, although he might have been heading down in my way, and that's who I encountered. So I have a contact bearing 256. Our heading is 336, so it'll be off to the left. Close to 15,000 yards. Make sure all the tubes are loaded. So we start at 600 feet and a speed of 26 knots, which, like I said, the 600 feet is good. 26 knots, not so much, so I have to slow down so I can actually hear something now. Go to ultra quiet right away.
Make depth 4, 5 feet, dive by.
And since I know it's possible that we're dealing with a surface group, I'm going to go to surface, go to periscope depth to use the ESM mast in the periscope to try to get an idea of where the contacts might be. So I just get a ping of active sonar, and then almost immediately it's followed up by contact showing up on the sonar. Looks like a surface vessel. Could possibly be a Krevac.
Con sonar, Sierra 1 is classified as escort.
We'll call it a Krivak for now. Looks pretty close. So we'll skip ahead here to when I'm turning towards that contact
Con
to
sonar,
engage
new
it.
contact
And
bearing
get another
2,
contact.
6, 3, designated Sierra 2.
Which also seems like a surface ship.
Con sonar, Sierra
Crested
2
2.
is classified as escort.
Now I have enough
One,
information,
aye, sir.
and they seem close enough that I feel confident shooting, so I will. I'll shoot one weapon
Aye,
in
sir.
each. And we'll fast forward to when the weapons
Con, fire
are
control,
getting
weapon
closer.
acquired.
The weapon has acquired. Weapon 2 was acquired on the Krivak.
Con, dive at 200 feet, dive by.
I'll speed up time a little bit while the weapon closes the distance.
Con sonar, noisemaker bearing 228.
And I'll set that weapon to active homing.
Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
And then steer it in here a little bit.
Noisemaker bearing 225.
Alright, so the Krivak is done. Now I can focus my attention on weapon number 2, which is heading towards the Cresta, who is who had a course set for right at me, then discovered the torpedo was on the way, then turned to evade.
Con sonar, lost contact. Master 2, last bearing.
Well, that's it for the Cresta.
4, contact breaking up.
We'll watch him sink, because that can be entertaining. And then that should be it for this mission. I'll stick around a little bit longer just to see if there's anybody around, and then there is a helicopter around, so I have to go evade the helicopter. So I'm just going to pick a direction which is pretty much due north, dive deep, and go fast to get out of the area so that the helicopter is no longer an issue. And now we've gotten out of its area, so I can finally exit. There was only the 2 ships on this encounter. So we're going to head towards the Barents Sea now. Hopefully pick up somebody else. Hoping to get into the view of that MPA. Geez, that was close. That encounter group was right there and then backed away at the last second, but I did finally get him. Bearing 5-4, our heading is 346, so we're looking at about 60-ish degrees, something like that, close enough. We have a contact as soon as we engage, Sierra 1, which I assume is going to be a surface vessel. Crested 2,
Con
another
sonar,
Crested 2.
Sierra 1 is classified as escort.
I'm at 50 feet. I'm gonna check it out here at periscope depth, just to make sure of the range. Doesn't hurt. And I can see I'm getting pinged. I'm getting sonar pings from a direction where I don't have a contact, so I expect something here soon. I'm actually getting pinged from 2 directions where I don't have any contacts. So there should be at least 3 targets on this engagement. All right, so I've got the periscope up, a little bit slow on the draw here, because I was a little bit distracted by something. All right, so that's 2 contacts, and I'm going to keep looking. There's the helicopter.
Lower the ESM.
The conditions are quite stormy. We're dealing with 94 decibels of background noise, so it'll be a little bit challenging here. But since they're surface vessels, it doesn't matter as much because I can always use my other sensors other than just sonar to track them down, such as my ESM mast and my periscope. And also the radar, although I tend to use that more sparingly if possible. Just way too predictable your position using the radar.
Con sonar, new contact bearing 04.
Now Sierra 3 pops up. I was looking in that direction with the periscope. I didn't see anything between myself and the Cresta 2, or the Cresta 2. So I'm quite sure that Sierra 3 is a submerged contact. I just got to classify it. And I settle on
Con sonar,
Victor
Sierra
3
is classified
Let's go
as
Victor 3.
submerged submarine.
And after classifying it and procrastinating for a few moments, I decide I'm gonna fire at the Victor 3 as well. Right away. I can see as the weapon's approaching, this is not a Victor 3, it's probably a Victor 2. It doesn't have that teardrop shaped thing on the vertical stabilizer at the back. The rudder, sorry, vertical stabilizer is on an airplane. It doesn't have that teardrop shaped thing on the rudder at the back.
6, contact breaking up.
So it's probably a Victor 2. Meanwhile, as I was watching that, the weapon that I fired towards the Cresta 2 started to get sucked up on the Victor 2, on the sinking Victor 2, so I've had to steer it away and get it going towards the Cresta 2 again. Meanwhile, reloading tube number 1 to make sure it's ready to go if I need it again. I've had this weapon active homing, so I'm steering it in to get the Cresta 2 sunk as quickly as possible.
Con sonar lost contact.
And that's it for the Cresta 2.
Last bearing 039. Contact breaking up.
Now weapon number 2, I'm steering in the general direction of where Master 2 was last located, and I don't have anything yet. So I'm going to steer it in that direction and hoping to encounter Master 2. Now, Master 2 is still pinging me with sonar, so I'm using that information to try to steer weapon number 2 in the right direction. Right now I'm concerned I may have missed it, that it may be between torpedo number 2 and the Cresta 2 somewhere, but I'm not, but I'm kind of committed now, especially since there's only 3.5 minutes of torpedo runtime left. Even if I turn it around and go the other direction, probably won't have a chance to get there in time, so I've committed now. At the same time, I'm going up to periscope depth. I'm planning to use my radar to get, which I'm doing right now. And as soon as it goes up,
Fire control, weapon acquired.
I finally get lock on Master 2 with Weapon 2. So that was, at the same time, it was just a coincidence. One didn't really have to do with the other. It just so happened that the amount of time it took me to get up from near the bottom to the surface and raise the radar mast, that's exactly when the torpedo had acquired Master 2, which I'm now going to classify since I have a little bit of time here before the torpedo arrives. It's a Kara.
Sonar Master 2 is classified as escort.
Alright, now that I know that, I can now focus on steering this torpedo in.
4, 5, 8, dive by. Con, fire control, weapon acquired.
I let the torpedo guide itself in at the end. I was only going to be there in case the Kara decided to release countermeasures, and then I wanted to get it back on track as quickly as possible. So we'll watch the Kara sink a little bit. quite surprised
Sonar,
to
we are cavitating.
learn that I had a torpedo incoming. I wasn't expecting it. It must be from the helicopter, unless the Kara launched one at some point. But anyway, I go to torpedo evasion right away. I release a countermeasure, a noisemaker, and start to dive as deep as I can.
0 feet, dive high.
Near the bottom's at about, yeah, it's a helicopter. I can hear him overhead. So the bottom's at about 620 feet. I'm going to go down to 500 or 550 here, which is about as deep as I want to get. I'll leave myself a little bit of a cushion to avoid hitting the bottom. Now there's a second torpedo. I'll have to worry about that as well. So now I have 2 torpedoes. The torpedoes are approaching pretty much beam on, so I'm going to release another noisemaker to try to distract it to get it behind me. Now I'm liking the way this is shaping up as far as torpedo evasion. They both seem to be behind me now, so I can keep them at bay. So that's it for the first torpedo. It ran out of energy. Now I can focus on the one that's left over.
Knuckle formed. Knuckle formed.
It's just falling back into the whole torpedo evasion technique that I've described in this video series a number of times now, so I won't bother going into detail a whole lot. We're just going to get to the point where this torpedo is going to run out of energy as well here very soon, and then that should do it for this engagement. We'll slow down immediately to 5 knots. Stop maneuvering.
No longer cavitating.
And there's nobody nearby, so we'll leave this engagement. And there was actually one more ship out there apparently. That's more than likely where that torpedo came from. I didn't hear that ship at any point, the cash-in, so I didn't know and I left, and it's too bad, but it's not a mission that I need to do anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. So I missed out on a little bit of tonnage, but it's not the end of the world. Make sure the tubes are loaded. New contact bearing 116. Our heading is 184, so it'll be about 70 degrees off to the left. We start the engagement with 2 contacts. I start with Sierra 2 because it is the closest, I believe. Well, it appears to be the closest. I guess we'll see where it really is once the solution firms up. Looks like a Kara.
Sierra 2 is classified as escort.
And Sierra 1, I think, is a Cresta 2.
Sonar, Sierra 1 is classified.
So the Kara
as
starts
escort.
pinging me with sonar right away. I decide that I'm not going to mess around. He's only showed him being about 12,000 yards away, so I'm going to shoot in the Kara's direction and hold off on the Cresta just a little bit longer. Right, so now I'm descending. I'm trying to get below the layer and use as much of the water depth as I can. Meanwhile, I have shot at the Cresta 2 as well, so I have 2 weapons in the water. Right now I'm focusing on the one heading towards the Kara.
Sonar lost contact. Master 2, last bearing 168.
Which gets the Kara on the first pass. So there wasn't a whole lot of evading going on there. We'll reload to number 1. And then switch focus to the weapon heading towards the Cresta 2, which I found to be a much more nimble and capable vessel as far as evading torpedoes anyway. They can really give you headaches, especially if you don't have the wire. But with the wire, not such a huge deal.
09.
Alright, that's it for the Cresta 2.
1-0. Contact breaking up.
And I don't think there's anything else out here. I'll stick around for a little bit longer just in case, but then after searching for a little bit, decide that's about it. So I'm going to head away from the area. There's no aircraft or vessels or anything, so I'm just going to leave. There was only those two on this encounter. So we'll stay where we are in the Barents Sea. I see a submarine that's left Murmansk, so I'm going to try to intercept it here. I'm hoping to get the MPA to... There we go. That's going to be him heading up my way. Contact bearing 23, heading's 237, so it's going to be to the right and a little bit like... It's going to be a little bit behind us and to the right.
Ultra quiet.
Looks like some stormy conditions up above. At 50 feet, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother with
Come right to 3,
you know,
5,
a surface check or anything like that right off the bat, because I believe this is a submarine. So I'm just because the noise is 91, maybe a little bit more challenging, so it takes me a little while to get the first contact. It finally does show up after a little bit of searching around. I was descending to 650 feet as well, so I was able to acquire that contact on the way down. Looks like a diesel electric sub, probably a Romeo.
Con sonar Sierra 1.
As soon as I classify it, we lose a contact. But I'm confident that he's still around there, so I'm going to fire. We'll set the activation range at about 2,400 yards or so. We'll skip ahead to where the weapon has acquired the Romeo and is closing in. I'm not steering it right now. I don't actually have the Romeo as a target.
Sonar lost contact. Sierra.
So I left the weapon to steer itself in that case.
Contact breaking up.
It's unusual that because the Romeo was moving and cavitating that I couldn't hear it. But that's fine. The weapon took care of it, and I'm happy with that. Looks like there was another Romeo on this encounter that I missed, but that's fine. Once again, none of these are all bonus missions, if you will, so it doesn't matter if I get them all. Here's another submarine encounter group heading my way. Contact bearing 137, our heading is 103, so we're looking at about 30 degrees off to the right.
Ultra quiet.
We had the contact when we first started the engagement, but it disappeared almost right away. Not almost, it disappeared right away. So bearing 137 is the last known bearing. I'm going to
Con sonar regained contact
turn in that.
on Sierra.
I'm going to keep moving in the direction I was moving, but expect the contact to show up somewhere around there, and eventually it does.
Bearing 2, 1,
And while I'm classifying the first one, the second contact shows up. It looks like another diesel electric Wolfpack situation here. A Tango and a Romeo.
2 is classified as submerged submarine. Con, helm, steady course.
I picked those up. There's a very strong layer, so that's what happened when I went through the layer. I picked up the two contacts, and the layers is only 193 feet, 200 feet. So as soon as I got down to like 200 feet or so, that's when I finally was able to acquire those two contacts. Now I've fired two weapons, one for each. The first one to engage will be the weapon on the Tango. I've got both set to active homing, and now that it's I do help steer it a little bit to get it around because I had a 95% contact. That's it for the Tango.
last
And I'll
bearing,
switch my focus
13,
after reloading
0,
to number
contact
1
breaking
to
up.
the weapon heading towards the Romeo. Now he was heading right for me. Apparently didn't realize what was happening. Didn't turn to evade, headed right for the torpedo, which I can consider a failed tactic in this case because he took it right in the front there. And that's it for the Romeo. So I stick around for a little bit, reload the tube just in case there's somebody else around, but there's no other vessels in the area, and those were the only 2 in this engagement. I have 10 torpedoes left. I can start keeping an eye on that once I get to about 10 or less. But there's still enough there for me to have at least 1 or 2 more encounters, I believe, as long as I don't waste any. Here's the next encounter. Submarine heading up our direction. Bearing 157. Our heading is 233, so it'll be off to the left. And then hit Shift D instead of Shift S to rig the ship for ultra quiet. So that means I've dropped the noisemaker. Maybe the game, the game makers may want to consider moving the noisemaker button somewhere else. I don't know. But anyway, that has happened a couple times to me already.
Bearing 154, designated Sierra 1.
Okay, so we have our first contact. It's off to the left. It looks like a nuke boat. And I believe it is pinging me already. Actually, no, it's not a nuke boat. It's a Tango. It's another diesel electric.
Is classified as a submerged submarine.
And because he's pinging me already and looks to be fairly close, I'm going to shoot at him right away.
Launch transient from Sierra 1.
And he shot right back. So he was already in a position to shoot at me anyway, and he fired. Now I'm going to make sure that my weapon's heading in the right direction before I make any attempt to go to torpedo evasion. It's going to take a little while for his torpedo to get near me anyway. But now that I'm sure that the weapon my weapon's moving in the right direction, I'm going to go to torpedo evasion. And I'll watch my torpedo approach and actually strike the Foxtrot from a distance. Now I can see his torpedo heading in my direction. I'm going to turn to head away from it. And just watch it as I head away from it. Just trying to get out of the area. There, finally, that torpedo did explode, run out of energy, and I'm able to leave this engagement. Only the Tango. There was only the Tango in this one. And here comes another MPA. So I'll stick around this area, and here comes another group of submarines to engage. Bearing 175, our heading is 138, so we're looking about 40 degrees to the right.
Ship for ultra quiet.
Sierra 1 and 2 both appear as soon as I engage. I believe this will be a nuke boat. That looks like a Victor. Sierra 1 looks like a Victor of some kind. Maybe even a Sierra. Yeah, I see those 2 lines up around 1250, 1500. Although, yeah, alright, so that looks like a Sierra. And the other one looks like a Victor 3. So we're dealing with 2 of the more advanced Soviet boats. I just double check on the Sierra 1 to make sure, and it does look like a Sierra. So I have turned myself to gather a little bit more information. Once I'm happy with the solution, I'm going to fire at both.
221, aye sir. Con sonar.
As soon as I fire Sierra 1 pings me with sonar, so I expect that they were somewhat aware of my presence.
Make turns for 3 knots. Maneuvering aye.
There we go. I thought that there was a weapon coming in I thought they were shooting at me, and there it is. I heard it overhead. Couldn't see it until it passed overhead, but that's fine. It's turning around behind me, which is a good place for it to be. I did release the noisemaker to try to ensure that would happen.
Torpedo in the water. Torpedo in the water. Bearing 108.
So the torpedo advisory I just received is about the one that's behind me.
Knuckle formed.
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 1.
So the Sierra took the torpedo that I fired in its direction.
Breaking up.
Con knuckle formed. Con dive.
So that defensive weapon did end up doing a good job. Now the torpedo's off to my right, and I'm still cutting it as much as I can using the knuckle technique.
0 feet, dive by.
It looks like the Victor 3 took the torpedo I sent in its direction, so I no longer have any active contacts.
Make depth 550.
I wasn't able to focus on that because I was still trying to get away from that torpedo, which has since run out of energy.
For 5 knots. Maneuvering a
Slowed down to 5 knots.
No longer cavitating.
And just listen in case there's anybody else out here. I'll stick around for a little bit, but not very long. Reload the tubes. And then decide I've heard enough and I'm going to back out of this encounter. Eventually, after taking one last little look around, there's nobody else around, leave combat, and those were the only 2 vessels on this engagement. Now I have 7 torpedoes left. So, which is good enough for, I believe, one more engagement, 7 torpedoes. I feel pretty confident, especially since I have also 4 4 harpoons. In case I run into a surface group, I can use those. So, I really have 11
Ring
weapons.
ship for ultra quiet.
But I mostly use the Mark 48, so I gauge it more by the number of torpedoes I have left, and don't really count the harpoons a whole lot.
Is classified as submerged.
So as soon as I engage, the Alpha comes up right away. Sierra 1's an Alpha, quite clearly, and shows being about 4.4 thousand yards. So I'm not going to mess around with it. 4.4 thousand yards is way too close, so I'm going to shoot immediately. And he hears me right away. Now, while this weapon's approaching, I do get another contact, Sierra 2, off to the southwest. Doesn't appear to be a Victor or November. It's a Sierra.
Sierra 2 is classified as submerged.
So that's definitely a danger, something I need to worry about. I get a third contact, Sierra 3 show up while I'm still trying to guide the weapon into the Alpha. Sierra 3 seems to be off to my left and quite close. But I felt it was, I had time to make sure that the Alpha was taken care of before I did anything else. So I'm going to turn in the direction of Sierra 3.
Con sonar, Sierra 3.
Sierra 3 appears to be another Sierra, so I have 2 advanced Soviet nuke boats to worry about here. I'm going to fire at Sierra 3 right away because it's so close that I need to get a weapon in his direction defensively.
Contact faded.
So we just try to evade at full speed, but because I have the wire, I don't have to worry about it.
Fire control, weapon acquired.
Noisemaker bearing 184. Con sonar lost contact.
All right, so that's it for Sierra 3.
Bearing 185.
Now Sierra 2, even though it shows up as being that the torpedo has passed it, I know that's incorrect because the torpedo would have had to pass through that area in order to get where it is now, and it did not see Sierra 3, so that was obviously incorrect.
Con sonar lost contact. Sierra 2.
And that's
last
it for
bearing
Sierra 2.
217. Contact breaking up.
That was 3 nuke boats in this encounter. I believe that should be it. Usually there's not more than 3. So I'll skip ahead here after watching it sink for a little bit, leave combat. Those were the 3 vessels on this encounter. I have 4 Mark 48s left, so I'm going to head back to Holy Lock now to reload the torpedo room. I'm going to back away, and I see there's one encounter group of submarines heading my way, trying to engage me, and I'm going to back away as quickly as possible to avoid it. No, I could probably take it out with 4 Mark 48s. That would only leave me with 1, and then I'd really run the risk of being encountered on the way back and not having any weapons left. So we'll just skip ahead here to when I get back to Holy Lock, reload all the Mark 48s. I've already got 4 harpoons, so we won't worry about the harpoons. Just going to reload all torpedoes. We'll cast off, save the game, take a look at the summary screen. So we've been 94 days at war now, sunk 151 ships for a total of 906,165 tons. My target that I'm aiming for right now is 1 million tons, so we're almost all the way there now. I'm expecting to reach that target in the next episode, which I hope to drop in the next day or 2. So until then, thank you very much for stopping by, and have a great day.